being polished. There's nothing wrong with this nib. In fact, you know, a lot of people might prefer this to what it might have been like before. It's just doesn't have the thing that I thought it was going to have.
What did you think it was going to have?
I thought it was going to be very similar to the pen you're using right now, except have the thick line be, oh no, that's the Waterman you're using. The Sheaffer, I thought it was going to be like the Sheaffer that you have, except that the fine line, or the right side up line would be half of what it is, what this one is now. So it was just going to be very, very thin, very, very fine, and you turn it upside down and it's finer still. And this one starts out just being broad to begin with. So I'm trying to sort of imitate how you're holding the pen. So you're holding the pen sort of how I was describing it, where you have the pen going behind you. So
but usually you hold it a bit like this.
That's how I would hold it. Yeah.
Okay.
And I would, to get a thick line, I would just draw downward. You know, if you think of a clock face, that pen can make a thick line from your point of view from 5 o'clock to 7:30 o'clock or so. You know, you can pull it in that direction. If you want a thick line going from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, you have to rotate the pen in your hand like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can do that. I mean, you're doing it now. But if I were to tell a normal artist, or an artist that doesn't think of ever holding a pen like that, to hold the pen like that, they would think I was crazy. They might turn the page, you know, and I've done that, you know, just rotate the page. So I can hold the pen in the same way. I suspect you like Marc Chagall.
Yes, I am actually a big fan of Marc Chagall. More so his lithographs than his
paintings.
Yeah, than his paintings. His paintings are they're good, and what I've seen of his stage sets and his ceiling pieces, his glass windows, those are really, really good.
Yeah.
But his lithographs are what I like the best.
Yeah. My parents, well, my mother is no longer living, but I grew up with a Marc Chagall lithograph in our living room, and it was a weird, surrealistic thing. Of two heads sort of as if they're lying in bed together looking at each other, and what their body looks like a single butt of a person. So they look like it's a very, I'll have to send you the picture of it because it's just it's a very surrealistic looking thing. And I remember that all of my friends, when we were kids, they would all giggle at this picture of this butt, bare butt, and these two heads. Very weird. But you know, your line work is reminiscent of his, not so much his drawings, but just his, well, I guess yes, his drawings. I mean, you have a very calligraphic style. And,
well, that's really only because I'm working with the Waterman.
Yeah. Well, I think I see that in all of the drawings you do. You will make a line that is pretty long, and it dances, you know, it moves about a bit in a fun way, and it lives on its own. You don't force it to do something it doesn't want to do, you know. If that makes any sense. I don't quite know.
No, that's something I've sort of noticed in your work too. I mean, even the pieces that you do, I think they're on iPad,
yeah.
where you do them in color or on black and white. Even those, they rely on sort of that calligraphic fineness.
Yeah, there's some people, you know, who draw, and they are so careful about making this line parallel to that line, or make this curve so perfect, and it just makes my teeth hurt. I mean, I have to draw that way quite often when I'm doing a house portrait or a map. Sometimes I have to make those roads exactly perfect, and it's painful, you know.
Yeah. See, I could not draw that way.
No.
Or I probably could if I really, really tried, but I don't want to try.
No, you don't want to try. I mean, why do that?
If you don't have to.
If you don't have to. It's like, it's like walking down a sidewalk and not stepping on a crack. You know, you spend so much time trying to navigate around the cracks, and that you're no longer walking. You know, I don't know what you're doing, but it's just, you're not being graceful. I mean, you might be able to be graceful if you plan it out. I imagine, you know, Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers could walk down the sidewalk not hitting any cracks and turning it into a little puzzle, but most of us don't do that. We, you know, jerkily walk down the sidewalk, and it looks like we're trying to avoid something. And so watching your whenever I have to draw an animal, a horse or a dog or a cat, even a cat, if I'm not looking at a cat, I never remember how their legs work. You know, does their leg go this way or does it go that way? You know, at the knee.
I have to do all the faint lines before I start this damn thing, because I don't know how horses work. I have no idea how their body functions.
Well, they have
I just have to give it a couple of goes before I actually settle on anything.
I guess all of these animals have really long wrists. You know, from their wrist to their fingers is really long. They have a shoulder, and they have an elbow, and then they have this thing that looks like it's an elbow, but it's actually their wrist. You know, it's their legs are sort of in three parts. We think of our arm as in two parts. We have from the elbow to the shoulder and the shoulder to our wrist. Those are the two parts of our arm. Well, our arms have three parts. The wrist and fingers are the third part. And it's just, a horse has, I think, unless I'm talking out of my fucking ass, which is entirely possible. But I think that's how they work.
Okay, so you've got your horse right here, if I understand you correctly.
Yeah.
Right. So here's his head, mane and ears and whatnot.
Yeah.
Holding the pen the wrong way, and the ink doesn't always want to flow like that.
Yeah.
So you've got your horse, you've got his neck.
Yeah. I guess I should probably look up.
And so here's his chest, and what you've got here, the wrist, and from what I understand, it's sort of like this. He's got a wrist and these hands. That's what comes into my mind.
Well,
I think that's what you meant, right?
Well, let me look at this here. We've got... There's my... That's what I'm looking for. You've got the humerus, right? That's the part of the bone that goes from the shoulder to the elbow, right?
Right.
And then you've got a radius.
I don't know which bones we're talking about. I don't know what I'm trying to
Okay, well, I'm looking at a skeleton of a horse right now, and the part of let me find a human. I'm looking at this visual dictionary, and where's the human bones? There's a naked human here, and then there's the inside of the human, but where are the bones? Muscles, there's the bones. Okay, the humerus, in a human, the humerus goes from your shoulder to your elbow, and the radius and ulna go from your elbow to your wrist. And then you've got the wrist bones are carpus, and then you've got metacarpus, which are your fingers, I guess. Carpus are all the bones in between your wrist and your fingers. So the metacarpus goes from if you took a horse leg and you divided it in half, visually in half, the wrist is halfway up from the hoof to the shoulder. You got that?
Let's say I do, and
let's say you do.
Pretend I'm smart.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
let's put it another way. The horse most of the horse's upper arm, from his shoulder to his elbow, we'll call it, is in the horse's body. You know, it's the part of the horse that's right, it's next to his trunk.